Leonardo DiCaprio hanging off a cliff in Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio getting mauled by a bear in The Revenant, Leonardo DiCaprio spinning atop in Inception, Leonardo DiCaprio screaming, "I'm the king of the world." But what if I told you that the actor we know as Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just one of Hollywood's greatest talents? He's actually been telling us one continuous story across his entire filmography. From a mentally challenged teenager to a Wall Street criminal to an undercover cop to a dream architect, DiCaprio's characters form a hidden narrative that spans decades. And today I'm going to break down every single Leonardo DiCaprio movie to reveal the secret thread connecting them all. Let's start at the beginning and work our way through DiCaprio's incredible career, film by film, to uncover the hidden narrative that connects them all. In 1993, the world was introduced to Leonardo DiCaprio's extraordinary talent in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Playing Arnie Grape, a 17-year-old with a developmental disability, DiCaprio delivered a performance so convincing that many viewers thought he actually had a disability in real life. Arnie's character represents pure innocence, untouched by the corruption of the world. He lives moment to moment, climbing water towers and waiting for his birthday cake. This is where our story begins, with a mind that sees the world differently. In Sam Raimi's Western The Quick and the Dead, DiCaprio plays a cocky young gunslinger simply known as the Kid, who's desperate to build a reputation and escape the shadow of his father. The Kid represents DiCaprio's first exploration of youthful bravado, a boy trying to become a man through violence and skill. The innocence of Arnie Grape has evolved into something more complex, ambition mixed with vulnerability. In the same year, DiCaprio played Jim Carroll in Basketball Diaries, a high school basketball star who spirals into heroin addiction. The contrast is striking. From Arnie's innocent mind to Jim's corrupted one, both characters are trapped, Arnie in his developmental disability, Jim in his addiction. Both are struggling to break free from their limitations. In Total Eclipse, DiCaprio portrays the French poet Arthur Rimbaud, exploring his volatile relationship with fellow poet Paul Verlaine. Rimbaud represents artistic genius unbound by social conventions, brilliant, rebellious, and self-destructive. This character builds on Jim Carroll's addiction but channels it into artistic expression rather than mere escape. In Baz Luhrmann's modern adaptation of Shakespeare's classic, DiCaprio plays Romeo, a young man consumed by love and ultimately destroyed by it. This character builds on the emotional intensity of his previous roles, but channels it into love rather than addiction or artistic rebellion. The eyes are the same, desperate, searching, longing for something beyond reach. Romeo's death represents another key moment in DiCaprio's narrative, the death of youth and romantic idealism. The innocent boy from Gilbert Grape has now experienced addiction, artistic rebellion, and tragic love. In Marvin's Room, DiCaprio plays Hank, a troubled teenager who was institutionalized for burning down his mother's house. Hank represents the destructive potential of unprocessed trauma, anger turned inward and then projected outward. This character continues the exploration of damaged youth that began with Jim Carroll. And then came Titanic, the film that transformed DiCaprio from a respected actor into a global superstar. As Jack Dawson, he embodied freedom, artistic passion, and selfless love. Jack is a wanderer, a free spirit who lives life on his own terms. He's poor but rich in experience. He's the evolution of Romeo, still romantic, but more grounded, more resilient. But Jack's death serves a crucial purpose in DiCaprio's overall narrative. It's not just a tragic ending to a love story, it's a symbolic death of DiCaprio's youth and innocence. After Titanic, DiCaprio would never play the carefree romantic lead again. Following Titanic, DiCaprio took on the dual role of King Louis XIV and his twin brother Philippe in The Man in the Iron Mask. This duality represents a crucial development in DiCaprio's narrative, the exploration of opposing sides of human nature, the cruel, selfish king versus the compassionate, noble brother. It's as if Jack Dawson's death split DiCaprio's character into light and dark halves. In The Beach, DiCaprio plays Richard, a young traveler who discovers a seemingly utopian community on a secret island in Thailand. Richard's journey from idealistic traveler to paranoid survivor represents DiCaprio's first adult exploration of mental breakdown. The paradise he discovers becomes a nightmare, a metaphor for the disillusionment that follows youthful idealism. As we move into the 2000s, we see DiCaprio's characters evolve from troubled youth to complex adults. The innocence of Arnie Grape has been completely transformed through experiences of addiction, love, death, and disillusionment. Now DiCaprio begins to explore the corrupting influences of power, wealth, and deception. In his first collaboration with Martin Scorsese, DiCaprio plays Amsterdam Vallon in Gangs of New York, a young man who infiltrates a gang to avenge his father's death. Amsterdam represents DiCaprio's first exploration of revenge as a driving force. The innocence of his early characters has been replaced by calculated patience and simmering rage. In Catch Me If You Can, DiCaprio plays Frank Abagnale Jr., a conman who successfully impersonates a doctor, a lawyer, and an airline pilot, all before his 21st birthday. Frank is the perfect bridge between DiCaprio's early and mature career. He still has the boyish charm of Jack Dawson, but now it's weaponized. His innocence has become a mask that hides a calculating mind. DiCaprio's portrayal of Howard Hughes in The Aviator marks his second collaboration with Martin Scorsese, and a significant evolution in his character journey. Hughes is brilliant but deeply flawed. His ambition and vision are matched only by his crippling OCD and paranoia. This character represents the dark side of success, the isolation and mental toll it takes. In The Departed, DiCaprio plays Billy Costigan, an undercover cop infiltrating a mob organization. This character lives in constant fear of having his true identity discovered. Billy represents the fragmentation of identity, a man who's played so many roles that he's lost touch with who he really is. This mirrors DiCaprio's own journey through his characters. In Blood Diamond, DiCaprio plays Danny Archer, a Rhodesian gunrunner and diamond smuggler operating in Sierra Leone during its civil war. Archer represents DiCaprio's first exploration of moral ambiguity in a global context. He's not a hero or a villain, but a survivor in a corrupt system. His journey from cynical mercenary to reluctant hero shows the possibility of redemption even for the most hardened character. In Body of Lies, DiCaprio plays Roger Ferris, a CIA operative hunting terrorists in the Middle East. Ferris continues the exploration of deception and identity that began with Billy Costigan, but in an international context. He's caught between competing loyalties to his country, his handlers, and his own moral code. In Revolutionary Road, DiCaprio reunites with Kate Winslet to play Frank Wheeler, a man trapped in suburban conformity in 1950s America. Frank represents the death of the American dream, the realization that conventional success doesn't bring happiness. This character is the antithesis of Jack Dawson's freedom and passion. In Shutter Island, DiCaprio plays Teddy Daniels, a U.S. Marshal investigating a disappearance at a psychiatric facility. But as the story unfolds, we discover that Teddy is actually Andrew Laeddis, a patient who created an elaborate fantasy to escape the guilt of killing his wife. This character represents the complete fracturing of the mind, the ultimate escape from an unbearable reality. From Arnie Grape's developmental disability to Andrew Laeddis' psychosis, DiCaprio's journey has come full circle. Both characters are trapped in their minds, but for entirely different reasons. In the same year, DiCaprio played Dom Cobb in Christopher Nolan's Inception, a thief who extracts information from people's dreams. Cobb is haunted by the memory of his wife and unable to return home to his children. He lives in a limbo between reality and dreams, never quite sure which is which. Both Shutter Island and Inception explore the same theme: a man trapped in his own mind, unable to distinguish between reality and fantasy. This represents the psychological cost of DiCaprio's journey. The innocent boy has become a tortured man. As we enter the 2010s, DiCaprio's characters become even more complex and morally ambiguous. The psychological damage of the 2000s evolves into full moral corruption as DiCaprio explores the darkest aspects of human nature. In J. Edgar, DiCaprio portrays J. Edgar Hoover, the powerful and controversial first director of the FBI. Hoover represents the corruption of power and the cost of repression, both political and personal. This character continues the exploration of psychological damage that began with Howard Hughes, but with the added dimension of historical significance. In Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, DiCaprio plays Calvin Candy, a sadistic plantation owner in the pre-Civil War South. Candy represents pure evil, a man who has embraced the most corrupt system in American history and revels in his power over others. This is DiCaprio's first true villain, a character with no redeeming qualities. In Baz Luhrmann's adaptation of F. Scott Fitzgerald's classic novel, DiCaprio plays Jay Gatsby, a mysterious millionaire obsessed with reclaiming his lost love. Gatsby represents the corruption of the American dream, wealth acquired through criminal means in pursuit of an impossible goal. Yet, unlike Calvin Candie, Gatsby retains a core of idealism and hope. In The Wolf of Wall Street, DiCaprio plays Jordan Belfort, a stockbroker who builds an empire through fraud and corruption. Jordan represents the complete moral corruption of DiCaprio's character journey. He's charismatic, brilliant, and utterly without conscience. The innocent boy from Gilbert Grape has become a monster of capitalism. In The Revenant, DiCaprio plays Hugh Glass, a frontiersman who is mauled by a bear and left for dead, only to survive and seek revenge. This character represents the physical manifestation of all the psychological suffering DiCaprio's characters have endured. Glass's broken body mirrors the broken minds of Andrew Laeddis, and the raw physicality of this performance, eating raw bison liver, sleeping inside a horse carcass, represents a return to the primal. The sophisticated corruption of Jordan Belfort has been stripped away, leaving only the will to survive. This performance finally won DiCaprio his long-awaited Oscar, perhaps because it represented the culmination of his character journey, from innocence to corruption to redemption through suffering. In Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, DiCaprio plays Rick Dalton, a fading TV star struggling to remain relevant in a changing industry. Rick represents something new in DiCaprio's journey: vulnerability and insecurity. He's not a con man or a corrupt businessman. He's just a man afraid of becoming irrelevant. Rick's redemption comes when he embraces his identity as a Western hero and uses his flamethrower to defeat the Manson family members. It's a meta-commentary on DiCaprio's own career, finding purpose by embracing his true talents. In Don't Look Up, DiCaprio plays Dr. Randall Mindy, an astronomer who discovers a comet on a collision course with Earth. Mindy represents DiCaprio's evolution into an activist role. Like DiCaprio himself, who has become an outspoken environmentalist, Mindy uses his platform to warn about impending disaster. The film's apocalyptic ending reflects DiCaprio's own concerns about climate change, a problem so vast and terrifying that it makes all other concerns seem trivial. In Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, DiCaprio plays Ernest Burkhart, a man who becomes complicit in a conspiracy to murder members of the oil-rich Osage Nation in the 1920s Oklahoma. Ernest represents the ultimate moral compromise, a man torn between his love for his Osage wife and his loyalty to his murderous uncle. This character combines the moral corruption of Jordan Belfort with the psychological complexity of Dom Cobb. Ernest's eventual confession represents a new stage in DiCaprio's character journey, the acknowledgement of guilt and the possibility of atonement. The innocent boy from Gilbert Grape has become a man capable of terrible things, but also capable of recognizing his own monstrosity. So what's the hidden narrative connecting all of Leonardo DiCaprio's films? It's the journey from innocence to experience, from purity to corruption, and ultimately to wisdom through suffering. Let's trace this journey chronologically. It begins with Arnie Grape, pure innocence, untouched by the world's corruption. The Kid in The Quick and the Dead shows youthful bravado cut short by violence. Jim Carroll represents innocence corrupted by addiction. Arthur Rimbaud channels that corruption into artistic rebellion. Romeo transforms it into passionate but doomed love. Hank shows the destructive potential of unprocessed trauma. Jack Dawson embodies youthful freedom before its tragic end. The Man in the Iron Mask explores the duality of human nature. Richard in The Beach experiences paradise lost and disillusionment. Amsterdam Vallon introduces revenge as motivation. Frank Abagnale Jr. weaponizes charm and innocence. Howard Hughes shows the corrupting influence of success. Billy Costigan explores the fragmentation of identity. Danny Archer navigates moral ambiguity in a global context. Roger Ferris continues this exploration in the world of espionage. Frank Wheeler reveals the emptiness of the American dream. Andrew Lettis represents the complete fracturing of the mind. Dom Cobb blurs the line between reality and fantasy. J. Edgar Hoover embodies the corruption of power. Calvin Candie represents pure evil without redemption. Jay Gatsby shows the corruption of idealism. Jordan Belfort represents moral corruption at its most seductive. Hugh Glass endures physical suffering as a path to redemption. Rick Dalton explores vulnerability and the fear of irrelevance. Dr. Randall Mindy channels fear into activism. And finally, Ernest Burkhart explores the possibility of atonement after terrible sins. It's not just a collection of great performances, it's one continuous character study. The evolution of a man from innocence to wisdom through every possible form of suffering and corruption. VO. DiCaprio hasn't just been acting in movies, he's been telling us one epic story about the human condition. And whether this was conscious or unconscious, the result is the same. A filmography that, when viewed as a whole, reveals profound truths about life, success, corruption, and redemption. So the next time you watch a Leonardo DiCaprio movie, remember that you're not just watching a single story. You're watching one chapter in an epic journey that spans decades and explores what it means to be human in all its messy, complicated glory.